In the silence of deep space, a rescue team opens a shattered pod and finds a trembling creature no bigger than a cat, yet with golden eyes that hold the sorrow of the stars. Burned, broken, and terrified, this tiny drakling should not even exist, for its kind was thought gone for centuries. But as its fragile wings unfurl, and its mind whispers a single desperate plea, one captain must decide whether to follow protocol or risk everything to earn its trust. If you are new to the channel, then please subscribe to the channel and like the video, and tell us where are you watching from. Now, let's jump into the story. The first time Captain Celine Hart saw the tiny shape through the cracked rescue pod, she forgot to breathe. A pair of great honey-gold eyes watched her from a shadowed corner, wide and wet with fear. The creature was no larger than a house cat, yet its small folded wings and fine cream fur along the belly gave it a strange, tender beauty. Light from the hangar deck ran across dulled amber scales marked by soot and old burns. When its pink nose twitched, Celine's resolve set like steel. "Hey there, little one," she said into her calm, though her voice was meant only for the small being. She stood outside the reinforced barrier, the pod still cycling out stale air. Behind her, the curved windows of Lysara 12 showed the violet seam of space. Dr. Oren Malik, the station's lead on odd life forms, stepped up beside her. "Unknown juvenile," he murmured, pulling a thin holoslate into life. "Wing membranes suggest very young. Injuries visible." "Captain, I recommend sedation before we extract." "Not yet," Celine said softly. "He's terrified." "We don't know it's male," Oren cautioned. Celine nodded. "Then I'll say little one until we do." The pod's hatch hissed open. A hush fell over the bay. The creature pressed itself deeper into the corner, claws tapping the metal with the smallest scrape. Celine raised both hands, palms empty. She had spent 20 years guiding lost beings out of wrecks and storms. She knew when rules needed to bend for kindness to work. Dr. Lila Marin arrived with a kit of gentle gels and a wrap blanket. "Heart rate is fast," she said after a scan through the barrier. "Stress is high. Injuries show both heat damage and neglect. Someone did this." Celine felt a quiet anger warm her ribs. She unclipped a small pouch from her belt. Inside were simple protein chips she kept for a half-tame shuttle stray named Nib. She set one chip on the floor, then stepped back, lowering herself to sit crrr. Minutes trickled by. The little creature made a sound like a broken lullaby, soft and wavering. Its long ears tipped toward the snack. A tiny paw slid out from beneath a wing, hesitated, and retreated. Celine did not move. She only breathed slow, steady, patient. 10 minutes, 20. Oren shifted his weight more than once. Leela scratched notes into her slate, then stopped, watching with careful eyes. At last, the little one reached again, faster this time, snatched the chip, and scurried back to the corner to nibble. Celine smiled. "That's right. Safe food, safe space." She placed another chip, a little closer. Another. Time became a soft thread pulling them together. By the time the pouch emptied, the creature had crept close enough to smell Celine's gloved fingers. Its breath was warm and a little shaky. When she offered the final chip on her open palm, the small mouth took it with the gentlest pressure. A low purr vibrated through the air. "Good," Celine whispered. "You're brave." She did not reach to touch, not yet. The little one decided for them both, leaning the side of its face into her fingers. The fur was the softest Celine had ever felt, and under the fur, the purr thrummed like a little engine of hope. Oren's slate threw upward columns of data. "Captain," he said, voice threaded with awe. "The markers match lost records. This could be an Oren Drakeling." The old decks called them myth, gone for centuries. Not gone, Celine said. Just hurt. Leela waited for a sign. Celine nodded, and the medic moved in slow, speaking in a calm tone, easing healing gel along the worst burns. The little one trembled, but did not pull away. Celine kept one hand near the small shoulder, a steady anchor. We need to move to care, Leela said. Gentle lift only. I'll carry, Celine said. She fashioned a soft sling from a clean fabric wrap. When she lifted the small being close, the wings tightened and relaxed as the purr deepened. The golden eyes blinked up at her, heavy with exhaustion, yet no longer empty. Together, they crossed the bright line from the cold hangar into warm corridors that smelled of clean air and citrus polish. We should choose a name until we learn the true one, Lila said, walking at Celine's side. Only if it helps him feel safe, Celine answered. She looked down at the little face. For now, we'll say Little Star, a name that holds light, not fear. The lift rose toward the green vault, the wide biodome where trust could grow like vines under sunlight. Celine felt the tiny heartbeat near her own and made a quiet promise that the station's rules could never right. Whatever this small star had endured, it would not face the next hour alone. Far behind them, the broken pods sat silent in the bay. None of them saw the faint engraving near its hinge, scoured by heat and time. A circle of lines around a small winged shape. It would take days for anyone to notice. By then, the pattern would already be echoing through reports as a sign of something older and far larger than one damaged shell. A shadowed network, a path through the dark that hunters had followed for too long. For the moment, the only thing that mattered was a gentle purr, a quiet breath, and a hand that did not let go. The green vault opened like a sunrise. Soft light spread over terraces of moss, ribbon streams, and trees from worlds that had learned to be neighbors. Celine stepped onto a path scented with leaf and water, the sling close against her chest. The little star peered out, eyes widening as gold filtered through leaves. Welcome home, for now, Celine said. Their first visitor drifted down like a slow, bright cloud. Glimmer looked like a puff of living silk, iridescent fibers rippling in shades of sea and dusk. 6 tiny eyes blinked in friendly patterns. Glimmer sang a soft hum that made the air feel warm. The little star's wings flared, then settled. The purr returned, tentative but real. Granite lumbered from the shade next, a broad, thorn-plated ridge beast whose armor could harden with a thought. With care learned over years, he made himself less large, lowering his head so he would not tower. Little one, he rumbled, voice like river stones in a stream. You are safe here. From the reeds came a streak of brown and whiskers. Pip, the sonic mouse, larger than a common mouse and quick as a thought, skidded to a stop, ears flicking like flags. Play? Pip chirped, bright and eager. No? Later? Okay, later. I will wait too. No, 1 minute. Celine smiled. Give our guest time, Pip. The little star listened with curious focus. Leela knelt to set out a dish of soft meal, gentle to the stomach and rich with what a young body needed. The small one ate with careful bites, pausing between each to watch the new friends. Oren entered with a portable scanner, hanging back so his science would not drown the fragile quiet. There's more than surface harm, he said to Leela, voice low. This pattern of injury shows restraint and repeated neglect. I'm afraid this was not an accident. Leela's jaw tightened. Then our care must be twice as kind. They made a space of comfort on a low platform, layered with soft fabric. Celine eased the sling aside and let the little one choose where to rest. The golden eyes looked from Celine to the nest, then back. Finally, the small body settled into the softness, wings half furled like a blanket. "We need a gentle placeholder name," Leela said, entering notes. "Something simple we can change when we learn the truth." Celine thought of stars, of small flames that refused to go out. "Corey," she said, like the heart of a warm coal. The little one blinked as if tasting the sound and did not object. The day settled into a rhythm. Lila treated burns with cool gel and wrapped tender wing joints. Celine read notes softly, not for meaning, but for music. Granite dozed near the platform, one eye barely open in quiet watch. Glimmer floated above like a pale lantern, glowing whenever Corey's purr faded. Pip tried to wait, failed, and began a gentle game of roll the nut across the platform's edge. Corey watched the nut roll, stop, roll again. A paw crept forward, tapped, and missed. Pip squeaked with delight, and Celine's laugh joined the soft chorus. The game went on until Corey's eyelids drooped. That night, Ori's scans finished processing. The data returned a thread neither he nor Celine wanted to see. "There are markers," he said in the med alcove, light low, "that match old files on smuggling networks, the pattern of burns and malnutrition. This is the work of trade in rare beings. Someone took him from family." Celine leaned against the counter. "Then there are likely others." "I'm afraid so," Oren said. "And there's one more thing. Old texts on Oren Drakeling say they vanished centuries ago. If Corey is Oren, someone is profiting from lives we thought lost to time." Anger did not help the little one sleep, so Celine folded it away for later. "We give him today," she said. "Tomorrow we start what must be done." When she returned to the platform, Corey was awake, eyes bright, body trembling a little. Glimmer hummed a lower note, soothing. Celine sat on the floor beside the nest, hands open. "I won't rush you," she said. "You choose." Corey took a step, then another. The small head pressed into her palm. Celine rested a gentle hand along the narrow shoulder. And then a ripple like warm rain brushed Celine's thoughts. A whisper, not in words, but in feelings and glimpses. Open sky, spinning leaves, a circle of small faces like Corey's, playing in a glow of light. A hard drop to a metal floor, a cage door closing, a mother's eyes, bright and determined. Celine blinked away tears. "I hear you," she breathed. "You're not alone." Corey's mind voice sharpened for a heartbeat, forming a single sound, soft and unsure. "Zara." Celine did not repeat it aloud. She nodded once, as if accepting a secret. "Thank you for trusting me." Granite's deep voice rumbled from his corner. "The little one speaks without sound. A gift," Glimmer sang quietly. "Rare, tender." Pip hopped onto Celine's knee. "Does the little one want to play tag tomorrow?" "I will run slowly, I promise." "Well, I will try." Celine smiled. "Tomorrow," she said, stroking Corey's head. "Tomorrow, we play. And we plan." Outside the biodome glass, the night side of Lysara 12 turned toward a distant sun. In the quiet, a bond tightened, one breath to another, one thought to another, held gently like a lantern cupped against wind. The world had taken much from the small Oren, but here, in this green place, something new began. Not only healing, but a circle of caretakers, each ready to stand where Haim might try to enter again. Days folded into weeks, and Corey grew stronger. The burns faded to pale marks, the wings learned to stretch without pain, and laughter like tiny bells escaped more often as Pip taught the rules of chase and tumble. Yet beneath the joy ran the quiet current of purpose. Celine, Oren, and Lila met with enforcement teams to trace the path of the damaged pod. They called the trail the Collector's Run, though no one spoke the name loudly. There's debris along a thin lane of quiet space, Oren told the team, pointing to a map of dim stars. We'll need deep scans. If the traffickers used emergency stasis, there could be pods we missed. Corey's ears tipped forward whenever they planned. Sometimes, when Celine sat beside the platform to tie her boots, a soft brush of thought would show her a picture, a hall lined with cages, a symbol like a circle full of... The mind voice remained simple, but clearer each day. One morning, alarms hummed low but urgent. Celine hurried to the operations deck, and Corey bounded after her, wings fluttering in little bursts. A salvage vessel had pinged an odd cluster deep in the drift. The scanners read faint life traces. "We're going," Celine said. "I'm on the retrieval team." "I want to be near," Corey's mind pressed, full of worry and hope. Celine knelt, forehead to small forehead. "You'll stay with Leela. Your thoughts can still reach me. Show me what I need to see." The mission moved with the kind of careful speed that lives require. The wreck lay in a slow tumble, torn from inside. Celine's team found a sealed compartment behind a shield panel. Inside were stasis pods, dim and humming. 4 signatures pulsed weakly. "We have them," Celine whispered, throat tight. Back at Lysara 12, the medical bay became a chapel of soft sounds and patient hands. Lila guided the revival with a voice that never rose, never hurried. Glimmer hovered at the door like a watchlight. Granite stood guard at the window. Pip kept a vigil by Corey's side, tiny paws folded in intense focus. The first pod sighed open. A tall Oren with bronze-bright scales blinked as if through deep water. His eyes found Corey at once. The second pod opened to a mother with iridescent patterns running her wings like the edge of dawn. The third and fourth held 2 juveniles, older than Corey, their scales a pale copper and a light silver. Corey leapt forward, then froze, trembling. The mother reached her wings out and wrapped him close, and the little bell laughter broke into soft, shaking sobs. Celine's eyes blurred. She stepped back to give them room, hand pressed to her heart. The Orens spoke with their minds, and with soft sounds that felt like song. Through the gentle link Corey shared, Celine caught the little one's true name chimed like a star note. Zara. Celine repeated it once, careful, honoring the gift. "Welcome home, Zara." The father's gaze turned to Celine. Gratitude moved across his features like sunlight on water. "You held our smallest star when the dark tried to swallow him," he said in a voice that Celine felt as much as heard. "We will not forget." Reports and decisions came next, as they always did. The Conservation Council convened across a dozen time zones and sent a list of placements that read like cages painted with pretty words. Celine stood before their screen of faces and spoke quietly but without fear. "The Oren should choose," she said. "They are people, not artifacts. Trust grows where it is watered. Uprooting them would be harm dressed as help." The vote took hours. While the council debated, Zara dozed with his siblings, curled around him like commas in a sentence of safety. When the decision finally arrived, it held a new shape. Lysara 12 would be named an Oren sanctuary. Funds would expand the Green Vault. The Oren would have autonomy and a guardian they had already chosen, Celine. As the station adapted, life returned to something like wonder. Zara learned as fast as joy moves. His telepathy reached beyond Celine to others he trusted. He could lift himself on a hush of gravity, and later settled lightly at Celine's shoulder to watch the lights rise each evening. The Oren family shared stories of a hidden colony long ago and a logo that matched the mark on the broken pod. The enforcement teams followed those fragments, broke 3 small trafficking rings, and freed beings who had not seen open sky in years. Then, a small miracle drifted out of the drift. A failing stasis cocoon, power almost out, held a young Orin with scales of deep purple, scattered with bright points like a tiny knight. Leela warmed the cocoon with her hands while humming a tune that had old earth words about calm seas. When the shell opened, the new one took a breath and reached for whoever was nearest. Zara reached back. The bond clicked into place like a star sliding into its spot. They named her Nova for the light on her scales. Still not enough for a whole future, Orin said at his console one evening, staring at numbers that never tell the whole truth. By measures alone, it looks thin. Celine tipped her head toward the sound of Zara teaching Nova to glide between glimmer and granite like a thread through beads. Measures alone miss the center, she said. We have something stronger here. On a quiet night, as the green vault glowed with lantern moths, Zara sat beside Celine. His mind brushed hers with a new clarity. We're not the end, he said. We're the bridge. And in the dark beyond the station, a listening device older than any on Lasara 12 woke to a signal it had waited centuries to hear. The message arrived like a tide. Long-range explorers near the Melanic Lanes found a ship adrift yet living, a craft with design lines that matched the oldest Aran sketches. It sang a simple sequence again and again, patient as the night. Sanctuary coordinates follow. Survivors welcome. The station softened its breathing to hear. The Aran gathered in the observation hall, wings folded neat, eyes bright with a hope they had learned to hold carefully. Zara stood between his parents. Nova tucked against his side. Celine kept to the edge as guardian, not to lead, but to steady. We'll send scouts, the father said. First contact must be careful, chosen, and kind. The council agreed quicker than anyone expected. A small ship left Lasara 12 with Aran volunteers and 2 pilots who knew how to land a vessel with a whisper. The weeks that followed stretched like silk. Zara learned patience by teaching it to Nova, who counted days using Pip's acorn stash and always lost count about halfway through. When the scouts returned, they did not come alone. 1 ship, then 3, then a ribbon of 12 emerged from the black and cut their drives to gentle glides, broadcasting the same peaceful song. From the first docking bay stepped elders with scales that shone like stories, young Orin who gaped at the green vault as if a dream had put down roots, and makers who carried instruments that hummed to gravity the way a hand hums to a harp. We hid by living in plain friendship, said an elder to the gathered caretakers. We did not vanish into cold solitude. We became part of safe places, small and true. We would have stayed hidden longer, but your young one, the little star who learned to trust again, proved that open kindness can be a shelter stronger than walls. Zara ducked his head, suddenly shy. Nova, not shy at all, declared, "My brother is brave and also funny, and sometimes tries to look serious when he wants extra snacks." The room laughed, the kind of laugh that turns strangers into neighbors. Life reshaped around the growing community. Aran pilots helped chart hazard lanes with soft foresight that caught trouble before it became a storm. Aran healers sat with beings who carried old hurts and listened with minds that never pressed but always welcomed. Artisans wove sculptures from light and small gravity wells, raising arches that seemed to float like leaves on a pond. Through it all, Zira moved as a thread between worlds. He visited the new colonies and returned to Lysera 12, which he still called first home. He carried Celine up into the wide vault, with gentle lifts that made her pretend to scold about captainly dignity, then laugh until her sides ached. Granite received 1,000 tiny drums on his armor plates from delighted children. Glimmer learned to pulse in time with Orin Chorus. Pip claimed to be in charge of all games and was absolutely correct. In the center of the green vault, a new nest glowed with soft warmth. An Orin egg lay on a bed of moss and woven light, guarded by song and steady hands. When it cracked, the whole station seemed to hold its breath. The hatchling spilled out with scales that shifted between dawn gold and sea teal. Zara's mate nuzzled the small brow. Celine lifted the little one with the care of a promise. "What is her name?" she asked. "Hope," Zara said. "In our song, Cyril, but every tongue knows what it means." The naming was followed by a quiet rite. The Orin had a word that translated imperfectly into common speech, nest sharer. It meant family by choice and devotion, not blood. The circle asked Celine if she would accept. She did, voice steady. Gentle bracelets woven from light rested on her wrists. The small one butted her forehead against Celine's cheek, claiming her without ceremony's need. As days flowed, messages went out to worlds that had once looked away and now chose to look toward. The old network that hurt lives became a broken map, irrelevant in a sky that held new roads. A final raid on a hidden depot freed many, and for the few who had done harm, justice came as dull work under bright suns and as long days given to rebuild what they had tried to take. One evening, when the vault was the color of tea and honey, Zara climbed the tallest rise with Celine and their circle. Below them, lanterns hung along the paths like waiting stars. Glimmer shimmered a soft cord. Granite settled, content. Pip balanced on a stone, pretending to be a statue, and failing wonderfully. "Tonight we lift messages," Celine said. "Not paper, not flame. Something truer to our friends' gifts." Orin artists had taught the station a new craft. Each lantern held a tiny gravity song, barely more than a whisper. When a hand touched the base, the lantern rose slowly. Long before night fully settled, the sky above the vault filled with drifting lights. Each hummed a small vow. "I will be kind. I will listen. I will stand. I will make room." Zara's lantern rose last. It carried no words, only a melody that had begun as a frightened hush in a broken pod and had grown into a chorus shared by many. Everyone looked up. The lanterns ascended until the ceiling mirrors blushed them into a river of gentle stars. Celine felt the weight of the old memory lift a little more. She remembered the first touch of a small, shaking head against her glove, the first purr that sounded like a promise outside language. She looked at the young one in her arms and at the tall Orin beside her. No longer a frightened little spark, now a steady flame. "Thank you." Zara's mind brushed hers, tender and sure, for opening a door when it was hard, for choosing to stay when fear said to step back. "Thank you," Celine answered, voice soft, "for teaching us how strong gentleness can be, for showing us the kind of family the future needs." High above, the lanterns drifted and sang. Below, friends leaned against one another in the comfortable silence that comes after a long sorrow has found a home and turned into something else. The story many had once thought would end with the last of a kind, instead unfolded like a bridge, built from small, patient acts across a wide river of night. And if anyone asked years later how such a bridge first began, the answer was always simple and true, with a small light in a broken pod, a careful hand, and a purr that chose trust over fear. The rest, as the lanterns kept singing, was the natural work of family.